Origins of taste, genre stigmatization, and musical marginalization. As I get older, I realize that most of my conversations revolve around music and everything surrounding that concept. Most of the meaningful conversations, at least. And one reoccurring conversation I find myself having is the origin of someone's musical taste. This is mainly because I introduced the topic of musical taste within a myriad of questions. Or I asked them my favorite music-related question, which is, if there was a scenario where you can only listen to 15 artists, period, who would they be and why? I would then explain that it's the artist's whole discography, including B-sides and unreleased music, but only 15 artists. I find that I gravitate towards this line of questioning because of the consistently intriguing results that arise afterwards. But that isn't the only reason for my questions. In fact, it's more so I can get a gauge on the person I'm talking to. You can find out a lot about a person based on the 15 artists they choose, and I like to make a mental assumption about what the artist they choose says about them as a person. Now, whether that assumption is wrong or right, it doesn't really matter. It's all part of the allure for a conversation such as this. Part of what I find most interesting about those conversations are the moments of contrast, if they do come up. For example, there is a general stigma in the world that a person that looks a certain type of way has to be into a specific kind of music. It's a preconceived notion about someone you may know nothing about, and it's always something I hated growing up, but we've all done it at some point. This is something I've been aware of for many years, even as a very young kid, which brings me to the origin of my taste in music and my disdain for generalizations and marginalizations. I grew up in a musical household. My father used to be a DJ and still is a collector of records to this day. I attribute this to be the first pivotal reason for my love of music, followed by the various early 2000s music channels, which is what I like to believe to be the second most pivotal reason for my love of music, as well as some insight for why my taste in music is so eclectic, so widely varied. Because I grew up around my father, I was exposed to blues, jazz, R&B, soul, and reggae, just to name a few genres. Meanwhile, my mom loved all that stuff, but also enjoyed artists like Krista Burr and Rascal Flatts and soca mixes. This made it so I never really looked at music as genres yet, more so just a collection of dope sounds. The concept of categorizing music just hadn't solidified yet, although I was aware of the difference in the music itself. I mention this first because this ties into my curiosity for more music. Growing up with 3 brothers, and being the youngest, made it so in the morning when we all woke up to get ready for school, ironically, I would leave last. It just happened to be the case that the elementary school started around 8:30 a.m. or so, while my brothers had to be out of the house by 7:20, which in hindsight is not a huge amount of time, but it was surely enough time for a little adventurous kid to absolutely get lost in the other music channels that my brothers never really cared to listen to. There was a routine. My eldest brother would play mainly rap or reggae from MTV or the radio, followed by the next oldest who leaves second. He would generally have R&B playing with the occasional rap on MTV too. Then the next oldest, who didn't venture off too much on his own, I remember him usually being content with whatever was on already. That left me with little over an hour to listen to what I wanted to hear and watch the videos I thought were appealing. This is generally how I got into the many genres my family does not listen to nowadays. Fuse.tv and many other programs put me onto the vast number of genres that I was missing out on and showed me a whole different realm of music. I believe this to be the point where I actively started to search for new music, the point where I understood that music comes in categories and how each one can play a part to make you feel a certain way and invoke numerous thoughts. It also showed me some hardships as well, such as growing up as a kid of color, whose musical interests were extremely different from the ones around me, led me to numerous moments of criticism throughout the years. For example, if I was to play anything remotely rock related in my household around most of my black friends, I would get funny looks and questions about why I'm playing that white music. A conversation I've had since the moment I started veering off to other types of music. A conversation I'm all too familiar with. And for a long time, I did a great job of keeping my interests hidden, just so I wouldn't have to go through another tedious, closed-minded conversation about why I'm into the things that I'm into. And of course, over time, I outgrew that habit and learned to embrace my interests. And if someone didn't look at my interests in the same light as me, well, then to me now, they were the ones missing out. But even to this day, the thought still ponders my head daily, how one surrounding can greatly impact their musical taste, and in some cases, their creative journey. I can't help but feel sorry for the people living their lives with their blinders up, closed-minded and shut off to anything and everything different from their normal. Knowing how much music means to me, regardless of genre, makes me appreciate it to the highest degree, and is the reason why I can't help but feel pity for the people in my life that are negatively and adamantly against anything but the genre they like. Their level of tolerance for abstract sounds and patterns is extremely low, and may deem anything outside the norm as just loud and/or weird noises. Which is fine, since everyone deserves to have their own opinion, but it's when people put down other people for their own opinions and interests. That's usually when it bothers me, personally, not the criticism or the opinions themselves. Which can be saddening, knowing how much greatness is out there waiting to be discovered. With the sheer amount of music there is out there, you are bound to find something you may enjoy just as much as any piece of music you may already know. I just find it very intriguing why people listen to the artists that they do and what got them there, and why they won't or don't listen to a particular artist or genre. There's usually reasoning to it all, and the fact that these conversations usually stem back to one's upbringing just makes for such a great conversational piece, and in my opinion, the best conversation starter. So to all my fellow music lovers watching this, use this video as an opportunity to branch off into something new by your standards. Whether it's an artist you always wanted to see what the hype was about, or an album you've been putting on hold, just get out there and venture off. Doesn't have to be today, doesn't have to be tomorrow, but at some point, make the valiant effort. You never know, you may find a gem that'll lead you further down the rabbit hole. And when you do, remember, no one is bound to a genre based on their appearance. And most importantly, remember that music isn't a highway, so put the dividers down. Music is an ocean, so dive in and get lost in it.